Hi guys, hi baby whisperers. It's tea time again. I have a pink tea today and I want to talk to you about crying. Babies crying is just really hard, isn't it? It's stressful and it can be something that mum in particular reacts to viscerally. Your body reacts when your baby cries. It could be that even it affects your milk if you let down milk. Sometimes somebody else's baby crying does that. So I want to talk today about 3 ways of approaching crying and dealing with crying, even when you're tired and exhausted. How to manage to get through the first couple of years of your baby's life where there's a lot of crying. Every baby cries and there's no off button. So we are going to talk about that today. But before we start, do you know me? You must know me by now. I'm Roya. I've helped hundreds of families to improve communication with their babies. And I have created lots of resources to help families do that. My most favorite is my baby sign language course. It's called the Infant Communication Baby Sign Language course. It's an online recorded course and it's available to enroll on at any time, which is exciting. And using these materials and spending time with families, I can help I've helped families like yours to create a strong bond with your baby from within the womb before they're even born. You can understand your baby's needs and wants, and you can parent with joy and confidence. Your child will grow up multilingual, feel at home in all their cultures. I have an international family. We speak 4 languages every day. You can do that too. Actually, we speak 3 every day, but we have 4 family languages. Your child can be have close relationships with your family abroad, and also enjoy the opportunities of that international lifestyle that you're living. So, yeah, crying. 3 things that you can think about when it comes to crying. So the first one, number 1, did you know that you can stop the crying before it even starts? This might be a good thing to learn about before you have your baby. While your baby is still in the belly, this is a good thing to study. Your baby, when they're born, they use, your baby shows you through their body language and their facial expressions some of their needs and wants. There are signals that all babies give. They're slightly different depending on your individual baby, but there are signs and signals that you can look out for from your baby that your baby is telling you that they're tired, that they're hungry, and that they need to pee and poop. So what are some of those signals? Well, I have a pack on the Infant Communication course where we dive in depth and we describe these signals, but I can give you just a couple of examples. So your baby from newborn is telling you that they're hungry by rooting for milk. What do I mean by rooting? It means that they're looking for where the milk is going to come from. So they're flopping their head a little bit. At the beginning, they don't have control, right, of their neck, but they're looking, they can move their head side to side. They might go onto your cheek, onto your neck, onto your shoulder, onto wherever it is that you're holding your baby. That's looking for milk. And another thing they sometimes do is smack their lips. Yeah, that's a hungry baby. There's other things that you can look out for too, and I discussed those more in the newborn pack. How can you tell if your baby's tired? Well, one thing to look out for is red lines under their eyes, red eyeliner, like red makeup. If their eyes are getting all red all the way around, your baby's tired. And if you know that, and the same with the hunger, if you're recognizing the signals, you can feed them before they get desperately hungry and start crying for milk. And the same with the tiredness signals. If you notice that your baby has the red around their eyes, you can find a way to put your baby to bed or wherever they take their nap, or you can have them carry them in the carrier, or you can reduce the light or stimulation so that they are able to sleep and get the rest that they need before they start to cry, because they're very, very tired. And then pee and poop. This is a little bit more unusual perhaps, but your baby is telling you by their body language whether they need to pee or poop. Now, we make a lot of jokes. If you have a baby already, I'm sure you have already noticed your baby's poo face, and you joke about that with your partner. And there are signals as well that you can notice when your baby needs to pee. I'm going to sneeze. Okay, it's not coming. And this can be disruptive. For example, one sign that your baby might need to pee is that when you're feeding them, they pop on and off the breast or the bottle. They cannot settle. And you might think they need to burp, so you burp them and then you try and feed them again, and they keep just popping on and off the breast or the bottle and they're not settled. This could be a sign that your baby needs to pee, and sometimes taking a pee break, putting them over a potty, allows them to pee and then get comfy and relaxed and enjoy their milk. And that happens because your baby, your newborn baby especially, does not want to pee on themselves. This is why lots of babies wait until you take off the nappy or the diaper and then they pee. And if you have a boy, has it ever happened? Pee right up into your face. My husband with our son had a face full of pee one time when he was changing his diaper. And this happens because newborns don't want to pee on themselves. And at the beginning, they will actually, when there are opportunities, when the diaper gets taken off, that's when they will pee, because then they think, I'm not peeing on myself. They don't think that consciously, of course, these are newborns, but there is a part of the brain where that happens. So I talk about this a lot in my early pottying masterclass. I have a recorded version of the masterclass. And if you would like to know more about that, you know where to find me. Get in touch, comment below, or send me a message. Okay? So those are some things that you can learn about, and you can stop the crying before it starts. Yeah, with that last one too, babies, sometimes they get like belly cramps and they need to poo, and you know they need to poo, but the poo's not coming out and they're struggling. There's a way to hold them so that they're able to eliminate, to pass the waste more easily. And I also speak about that in the early pottying masterclass. But sometimes that, it causes them distress and they're uncomfortable and they're crying. If you know these things, you can respond to their body language before they start to cry. You can reduce the crying. Let's enjoy less crying, people. Okay, point number 2 then, idea number 2. Focus on communication with your newborn baby. Now, it happens often that when we have a baby, newborns, we think they cry and they poop and they sleep, and that's basically all they do. Well, yeah, okay, but they are, as they grow and develop, they are showing you with their body language a lot of their needs and wants. And as they get bigger, around 6 months old, they are beginning to think and connect meaning with words, and then more meaningful communication can start. Now, your baby won't say their first word until they are about 1 year old. The first word normally comes at 1 year old, and that's just one word. So we're not getting anywhere to like lots of words or sentences or anything like very clear communication. So how can we start helping on focusing on communication, more meaningful, purposeful communication from your baby before they say their first word? Well, at around 6 months old, so we're coming out of the newborn period now, your baby starts to get control of their hands. And you might see your baby just like looking at their hands. Both of mine did that. And sort of the connection between the brain and the hands. Okay, I can move this thing. You can see it happening. It's really interesting. So focus on this. Don't wait until your baby is speaking to communicate with them. You can teach them baby signs. You can learn them and your baby can learn them together. It's really a beautiful process, a wonderful family project. And your baby using baby signs, which are hand gestures. So this is the gesture for milk, for example. It's like milking a cow. Sorry, mamas. Milk. That helps you remember it, right? Okay. you can use this sign when you're offering your baby milk, and then eventually they make the association with the hand gesture and the milk, and they have control of their hands before they have control of pronouncing words, before their speech muscles are completely working together with their brain and they're able to speak. That comes much later. So you can give them this opportunity to tell you what they need and want months before they can speak words. It's amazing. It's totally a game changer, and it will reduce a lot of frustration and a lot of stress. And then you will find out that your baby is telling you what they need and want and not crying for what they need and want. Less crying. So again, we can enjoy less crying with our babies. It's fruity. I think it's raspberry, and it's definitely vanilla. Raspberry and vanilla. Pink tea. Okay, this brings me on to the last tip of the day. Tip 3. This is my least favorite one, but I have to say it. If your baby is going to cry, no matter what you do, your baby is going to cry. Okay? And crying is communication. You know, behavior is communication. Crying is communication. So once you've tried to learn their body language, teach them signs so they can tell you what they mean and want, and then they're still crying, they're communicating something. So this is where you might have the checklist. Lots of parents have this checklist. So you're thinking, when did I last change them? Are they tired? Are they hot? Are they cold? Now, when I last changed them, you could perhaps skip that one because you know from their body language if they need to pee or poop, and you can say, they're not telling me they need to pee and poop. Or are they hungry? Well, now that there are signals that your baby gives that tells you if they're hungry, so hopefully they're not crying because they're hungry. And then what other things are on the checklist? Well, it could be that your baby's not well, or they're too hot, or they're too cold, or something's hurting them, like a label or something, they're uncomfortable, or these types of things. So you can look around for another cause of the crying, think about what it could be, make a list. We all have this mental checklist. I think every parent has that. What's on your mental checklist for checking why your baby's crying? Share it. It'd be interesting to know. And then you can't figure it out. That's definitely going to happen, that you have a crying baby and you don't know why. Okay. If you figure out that it's because they're not well, they maybe have a fever or something like that, then you know how to treat that medically, or you can get a doctor involved. Okay, so that's something you could do. But there will be crying where you will never understand why they're crying, and the crying will be intense, and you will be stressed and overwhelmed. And it is what it is. And we have to deal with it. You just have to deal with it. Sorry. So that's tip number 3. You just have to deal with it. It is what it is, and it shall pass. Okay, when you're in the middle of it, it's horrible and you want it to stop, but it shall pass. And so what can you do to survive it? Well, a couple of things you can do. One is get comfortable with your baby's emotions, because your child has emotions. And if you find that triggering or difficult, then look inside and see what you can do to deal better with the crying. Why are you getting triggered by the crying? What is it? Is it the noise that's, it's hurting you? Like it's physically the noise is too much? Or is it triggering because you're worried about your baby and you can't do anything? You can't solve the problem? Or what is it about the crying that you're finding very stressful? It could just be that it's loud crying. That is stressful. You can't make it stop. Sorry, but this is real talk, right? This is how it is. Get comfortable with the emotions and be there for your baby, because obviously your baby's not having a good time. So if you can support your baby through the crying, that's the best. Have your baby close to you, because you parents, having your baby on your body is calming for them. That regulates both of them. That's a beautiful thing that people don't talk about a lot about breastfeeding, or I guess bottle feeding too, if you're holding the baby close to you, is that the baby being close to you is also nourishing them in other ways, not just from the milk. They're getting nourished because they're close to your heart beating, they're listening to your breathing, they're bonding with you, and they're self-regulating. So if you're able to keep your baby close to you when they're crying, that might help. Putting them in a baby carrier, sometimes wearing them helps. It could be, with our son, we went through a situation for some time where he would cry in his bed. It was when he was going through a transition, a development leap, and he had learned how to stand, and he would stand up in his cot, and he would hang over the side of his cot with the thing under his armpits and just hang there. He was exhausted, but he didn't want to lay down and go to sleep. He wanted to practice standing, this new exciting skill, but he was exhausted. So he was standing but crying. And what I found very, very difficult about that situation is that it didn't help if I was with him or I wasn't with him, he would cry the same. And we would lay him down again, of course, and he would just get straight back up and hang himself over the cot bars. And what we discovered two things. First of all, I realized that for myself to deal with the situation without getting upset, without getting frustrated, without me getting frustrated, without me getting angry with my son, and even, have to say it, but it's happening more and more, the frustration of a baby that's crying for a long period. It's very stressful, and we hear about parents who get so stressed that they shake the baby, and this is so damaging physically for your baby, for their brain, and it causes long-term damage. And so we don't want to get to that point where you are so exhausted and so overwhelmed and angry and frustrated that could happen. So what do? You don't have to stay with your baby. Okay, let me tell you again, you don't have to stay with your baby. Now, I know you want to. I wanted to desperately, but there were moments, during that period where he was learning to stand up, there was a lot of times where if I sat next to him and stroked him, if I laid him down and held him down and stroked him, he would cry and scream the same as if I walked away, I closed the door, walked away, and went downstairs. So I had to do that for my own well-being. Okay, there have to be some limits. And it's hard to say this, and I find it hard now to look back and say, yeah, I walked away from my crying baby, but I did it because it was better for both of us. Okay, we need some limits. And so what I would do, I didn't leave him the whole night crying, of course, nothing like that. But I would go away for 10 minutes. I would hug my husband, or I would lay down in my bed, or I would eat something that made me feel, I don't know, I would eat something good or have a drink. I would just try and do something that was taking care of me. I would visit the bathroom by myself. My baby's crying, but I would go away for 10 minutes and I would clock watch it, or even set a timer sometimes. And every 10 minutes, I would go back in there and I would stroke him and hug him and tell him that I loved him, that I wanted to understand why he was crying, but I didn't understand why he was crying. And I wanted to help him, but I didn't know how. And I would stay again for as long as I could bear. And when it was too much, too loud and too much screaming, I would lay him down and I would tell him I'm coming back. And I would go away again. And I would put my timer on and I would do my 10 minutes away from the ear-splitting screaming. I would wear earplugs sometimes too. That was another thing that we did. So, yeah, I say get comfortable with the crying. I don't think you ever do. I'm feeling a little bit emotional now thinking about it. About my boy crying alone in his room. And he was about a year old, like less than a year old. But that kept him safe, because I really think if I stayed in the room with him and I was like, I have to be with my baby, and his needs come over everybody else's, I can see that going badly, really, because it's very difficult to get through that situation. It's so stressful. And I don't know, if you have a baby already, I think you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't had your baby yet and you're still pregnant, then I hope I haven't scared you. But this is something that will happen. I think it happens to every family at least once, where you have a screaming, crying baby and you have no idea why and you don't know what to do, and you might need to walk away for a few minutes. And if you have to walk away for a few minutes, your baby is going to be okay. They will not remember it. And you will reset yourself, regulate yourself enough to go back in and care for them. Please don't leave them for the whole night screaming alone. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. But go take a break, calm your nerves, and then you're strong enough to go back in. Okay, you need to look after yourself. I read the other day that the best thing you can do for your baby is look after yourself. Okay, the best thing you can do for your baby is look after yourself. So those are my 3 things. Stop the crying before it starts by learning your newborn's body language. Please, if you're pregnant, do that now before your baby arrives. It will make things so much easier for you. Nobody talks about this. Why don't people talk about this? So I'm telling you, we have my newborn pack in the infant communication course. And if you have an older baby after newborn to, around 1-2 years old, use some parenting tools like baby sign language. Again, I have the infant communication baby sign language course, and you can learn more than 100 signs so that your baby can tell you their needs and wants, very complex ideas, before they can speak. And 3, if you really have no idea why your baby is crying, you have to find a way to deal with it. You have to get comfortable with your baby's emotions, because they will have emotions. You can find out how it triggers you and how it makes you feel, and how you can manage your own feelings and behavior in the face of your child's crying. And if you need to, you can be ready to walk away, calm yourself, take a break, and then go back in and look after your baby from a space of control and being the parent, rather than frustration and anger and rage, because that's dangerous. Okay, it's dangerous to you and your baby. So look after yourselves. Courage parents. Okay, those were my 3 ideas. What did I miss? What other ways can you think of for dealing with crying that would be good to share with new families? And which of those 3 things is most useful for you? Let me know. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you get more like this. There's a bell ding that you have to hit so that you see when my new videos are uploaded. Normally on Mondays they come. And you can go to babysignlanguagecourse.com and there get your free guide to getting started with baby sign language. You can download it and you will receive an invitation to enroll on the infant communication baby sign language course. And it will solve so many problems before they become problems. So please take the time to think about doing that. All right, it was so nice to have a little chat with you. I'm going to finish drinking my tea now and see you later. Bye, baby whisperers.